Welcome back. Today is all about pivot tables, how to use them, answering 5 actual questions from an interview for a business analyst position. In this Excel file, we have a database where we have a list of customers. Customer ID is the first column, then we have the gender, the customer segment, which I'm going to explain in a moment, the total lifetime sales, so this first customer has spent £88 in total, the total amount of purchases, the date in which the first item was purchased, also the date at which the last purchase was made, and then also the country. That's what we have. Customer segments, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Active, regular are those clients who purchase regularly and they have an average spending. Active, low spenders, those who are active but spend less than average. At risk are those that haven't made a purchase in some time. Champions instead are those customers that spend the most, so they have spending that's above the average. Lost are those that haven't made a purchase in 3 years or so, and need focus are those who haven't made a purchase in like a year, 2 years, something like that, so they are at risk of being lost. And potential loyalists, they are in between the regular and the champion, so they buy regularly, they spend a lot but they could spend more, so we could convert them into champions, if that makes sense. So this kind of database is something that we could expect we received from a client. If we are a business analyst, the client might be ASOS or Boohoo, any retailer really, any online retailer, or well, I say Boohoo and ASOS because I think clothes, but it doesn't have to be clothes actually, this could be Amazon, whatever. So let's start with question number 1 for this. Produce a summary. Let me just grab this. I'm going to put it here in a lovely text box. Produce a summary of sales by country, ranked by highest to lowest. So let's start with that. Pivot table. How do we insert a pivot table? I had already inserted one. Let me just get rid of this. So the first thing to do is to format your database as a table. To do that, just select the whole database, go to Home, and then Format as a table. Choose whichever of these bothers you the least. I've chosen this very plain layout for my table. And then click anywhere in the table, go to Insert and click on Pivot Table. Now Excel is smart enough to recognize that I want table 1 to be my source, so that's fine. And instead of putting the pivot table into a new worksheet, I'm going to click on Existing Worksheet so we can reference the database at all times, and I'm just going to put J3. Then make sure that you take add this data to the data module, click OK. We have our pivot table. Now you will see here that all the columns have become fields, right? We have the customer ID, the gender, etc. And then at the bottom we have filters, columns, rows, and values. Now values is the most important bit. Values is what we want to see. So in here we want a summary of sales by country. So we want to see sales. Values is essentially what we want to look at. And that's why I'm going to drag total lifetime sales into the value, and this is like 3,182,000, but I want it by country, so I want each country to show me how many sales were coming from that region, and that's why country is going to go next to rows here. And now we have a breakdown of the sales by each country. This looks a bit confusing, so I'm just going to format this as currency. Makes sense doing so. Just right click and go to number format. Don't go to format cells because that just formats the cells. Instead, I want these numbers to be currencies, if that makes sense. So click on that. Go to currency. Pounds is fine. It's the same as the source. So click OK. And at the bottom we have the 3 million we were expecting, the grand total. Perfect. So that's the first bit. all of the questions, we're gonna answer them using pivot tables. So I'm gonna give you like an overview of all the functionalities, all the things that pivot tables can do using this practical example. That's the idea. Sales by country ranked highest to lowest. To do that, right click anywhere in the table, and where it says sort, just sort largest to smallest. So here immediately we see that the countries that generate the most revenues are the UK, Great Britain actually, and the States, with more than 1 million each. Perfect. And then we have to show what percentage of sales comes from these two. So 1.6 million and 1 million is a percentage of 3 million. How we do that? We're gonna add another column here. So we're gonna drag again total lifetime sales to value. It may seem like we are just duplicating it so far, but instead we're gonna change the name of this column. We're gonna call it percentage sales. And then we're gonna right click anywhere in column L and go to show value as, instead of no calculation, take percentage of grand total. So here we can see that Great Britain accounts for 50% of the revenues and the US for 34%. So that's great, that's almost finished. I think there's a bit left here. How many country codes have total lifetime sales below 10,000? How many of these are below 10,000? So we can filter, right? Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm saying a drop down here, that's usually for filtering. To be able to filter these guys here, according to what's going on here, we have to select from the drop down value filters. Not label filters, but value. So less than, because we want to see the regions that account for less than 10,000. So click on that. Sum of total lifetime sales is less than 10,000. Okay, great. How many is this? I could select them and count them. I see that is 48. Or I could do this in a pivot table to have an index and the count at the bottom. To do that, take country and drag it where it says values. By default, this is showing me the count of country. So how many sales are happening in this region, which is not what I want. I want this column, column M, to actually index my countries. I want this to be 1, 1, 1, 1, etc. So it's like I want a distinct count. That's how it's called. So we right click anywhere here and we go to summarize value by, then more options, and at the bottom distinct count. And we're going to get our ones, and at the bottom is the 48 that we needed. So now every time that we're going to filter, we don't have to manually count or select and check what's going on in the bottom corner. We can just go down and see, yeah, okay, it's 48. If we apply another filter, this total will obviously change now that we have the distinct count in column M. So that was the first question. Let's go, let me move this guy over to the right. And let's check what this is. Create a table showing the count of customers in each customer segment and their total lifetime sales. Let's do that for a start. Click anywhere in the table, and just like we did before, go to Insert, Pivot Table. Okay, we have the pivot table. The count of customers in each segment. So the most difficult thing at the beginning when you deal with pivot tables is to actually know what goes into values and what goes into rows. But if it says show the count of customer by customer segment, then it means that I want to see the total amount of customers, which is almost 9,000, and that's why I'm going to put it into values. split by the customer segment. So I see that there's 193 active regulars, there's over 3,000 customers which have been lost, and there's almost 500 champions. This is what I wanted. And the total lifetime sales, very important because we see who's generating the most money. So we drag total lifetime sales here. And let me format these as currency again, because otherwise I lose my mind. Show percentage of customers and percentage of sales. This is just what we did before. To show the percentage of customers, we're just going to take customer ID and I'm going to drag it here in between the two. I'm going to rename this percentage customer. Right click, show value as percentage of grand total. So what is the category with the most customer? Unfortunately is lost. Okay, most of the people in that database are not customers anymore. They haven't been for 3 years, so they're considered lost. Now percentage sales as well. So who brings the most revenues in percentage terms? So take this, drag it to the end. And instead of the sum here, obviously we want percentage. Right click, show value as percentage of grand total. So who brings the most money? Historically, most money has been brought by the clients which have been lost. It's also the group with the most clients in it, so it's not surprising. But after that, the second is active low spenders. Okay, perfect. Last one, calculate the average sale per customer segment. How do we calculate the average sales in the pivot tables? Let's drag total lifetime sales here. Let's call it average sales by segment. Right click and instead of show value as, go to summarize values by, and average is just the third from the top. This should also be formatted as a currency. So for example, the regulars have an average spending of 931. The total average spending across all categories is 354 pounds. Okay, that was question 2. Let's go to question 3. What percentage of customers have placed 2 orders? And what is the total value of their lifetime sales? What percentage does the 2 orders total lifetime spend represents out of the total sales? So this is slightly more complex as a question because it's also like the way it's phrased. It's not as intuitive as the ones before, but we can do it. It's nothing crazy. So click anywhere here, just like before, insert pivot table, existing worksheet. Let's put it here. 2 orders. So we want to see the customers again. We want to see customers ID, but we want to see them split by the amount of purchases they've made. So total purchases should be in the rows. So the minimum purchase has been 0 and the maximum has been 32 items ordered. And this is the split of customers. There's only one person who ordered 32 things and there's 274 people who returned their items. So they are considered customers, but they've made 0 orders effectively. The value of the total lifetime sales, we can just check it out by dragging that to values and formatting it. What percentage does the 2 times orders represent out of total sales? What percentage are they? What is, basically I'm asking, what is 6,600 as a percentage of 8,900? To do that, we take customer ID again, and we go to show value as percentage of grand total. So the people who ordered just twice, there's 1,000 of them. the sum of the total lifetime sales is 500,000 more or less, and they are 13% of the total population. So this was question 3. For question 4, what is the average number of days between first and last purchase for customers who have made 2 purchases in total? So I'm just going to move all of this to the right, and we're going to insert another table. But first, to be able to answer this question, I'm going to put an extra column, which is going to be automatically incorporated in my original table, and I'm going to call it days in between. You might know this, but dates in Excel are just numbers. So I'm just going to take the difference between the last purchase date and the first purchase date to know how many days were in between these 2 dates. So there were 757 days between the 6th of August and the 11th of July 2016-2014. Okay, that checks out. So once that I've created this helper column in a way, I can go back and insert my pivot table. So go to insert, click pivot table, table 1. You see how this in between is automatically incorporated. Existing worksheet, let's put it here, click OK. And sometimes it happens that the fields do not refresh automatically. So I have first and last purchase date, and then I have a country. So I don't see my days in between. I don't see my helper column. Well, when that happens, no panic. Just go here to refresh under the pivot table analyze tab, and that automatically, immediately shows up. So no worries. Average number of days between first and last purchase, but for customers who have made 2 purchases in total. So I still want to show customers. I still want to show them segmented by the total amount of orders they've made, so total purchases. And then I'm going to show the days in between. I'm going to put average here, and I'm going to right click, show value, summarize values by average. This is a number, so I'm going to put number without separators. And that's it. So all of these things, like, they seem difficult before you do them, but actually when you see them, it's like, okay, no, that made sense. I did this using a helper column. In Italian, we call this una porcata. If you're not Italian, ask an Italian friend to translate that for you. There might be ways of doing that by keeping the original database unchanged. If you do know how to do that, please let me know in the comments. I'd be thrilled to know. So that is, I think, the last technical question. Yeah, because question 5 was a bit more like a thinking question, not so much an Excel question, but looking at the table, showing the number of customers and their total lifetime sales segmented by the loss, at risk, etc. How would you convert more clients into champions? What kind of analysis would you do on the champions? So let's go and look at that table. I think it's here, yeah. So we have the active regulars, low spenders, the champions, which represent almost 20% of the original database. So what kind of analysis would we do on the champions? Well, I think I would want to know which country they come from, their gender, potentially if I had access to some more demographics like their age, stuff like that, but also what kind of products they bought, and how they got to the website, like what channels, what dragged them in, because if that worked for them, maybe I can drag more people in. So first get to know them more, because this is not enough, and then see how they got to the website, so that you develop more effective channels, more effective ways of conversion. If something else comes to your mind, by any means, please let me know, drop me a comment. And I thank you so much for watching this far today. This is a longer video. This is longer than I expected. I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching as usual, and have a lovely evening.